Can your thoughts impact the environment around you? How does quantum theory factor into a game? Is magical thinking and the theory of quantum physics the same thing? Today we test the believability of Randonautica and the mind.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual.
and tell you whether or not we find it believable. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie. So before we start the show, I just want to say shout out to...
Haley, right?
Yeah. I just want to say shout out to Haley and a couple other followers that told us that they wanted us to do this episode because honestly it wasn't on my radar, but I decided to give it a shot because we got some requests.
Yeah, so take heed. If there's something you want us to talk about, we do listen. So hit us up and say, you guys should... I mean, Antarctica, our last episode, the reason that exists is because somebody reached out and said, you guys should do this. So we do listen.
But you and a couple friends should send us messages because honestly, that's the only reason we did it.
Yeah, if it was just one person, that. But if you get at least like 2 or 3, then we'll start considering it. We put it on our big whiteboard.
So roughly what Randonautica is. It's an app for your phone. That's the end of the episode.
I have many of those. Are we going to do an episode on like Snapchat?
No, I don't know how to work that shit.
Is anybody still on Snapchat? Like, I know it still exists, but does anybody actually still use it?
I think that's what the Zoomers use.
Zoomers?
Yeah,
the hell are you talking about?
Gen Z.
They're Zoomers now?
That's their name, their code. The Zoomers.
The Zoomers. They don't use TikTok.
Yeah, they do.
For the next 40 days, they do.
So roughly what the app is. The thumbnail is, it's really weird. It's the name in a semicircle above this creature that's like fading out. And it's an owl with its head tilted to the side.
So are we rating the graphic design now for the app?
I was trying to figure out for like a solid 20 minutes what it actually is like referencing.
So wisdom for the owl, or like knowledge, maybe?
Maybe.
Insight. And then what was the first thing?
It's just the name right now.
Oh, well, it probably means Randonautica then.
Yeah, I got that part. But the owl was like, I don't understand why that's doing that. But it doesn't really matter. I'm just saying what it was. It also looks like a coin, or like, I thought, like a pin of a bullet, but that's just me.
Is it free, or are they trying to say, give us your money?
It is free. Actually, there's a premium version, but...
What is the premium? It gives you better
I think
better
you get more
spots.
Points? I don't know.
It won't send you in the middle of the ocean if you pay.
It'll do that anyway. So, randonauting is the act of using...
Random nauticals.
Yes, Randonautica.
Nautica, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
What is Nautica? Rando, I imagine, is like random. But what is Nautica?
Nautica is Italian for navigation. So, random navigation.
That makes sense. I wonder why Italian. Was it made Italian, or do you think they were just...
It's not. It's some guy named Josh...
Pepperoni?
No.
Pizzini?
It's Lengfeld.
Orelli?
Joshua Lengfeld. No,
Okay.
Orelli. No, he's not Italian.
He probably took one intro to Italian course in college and was like,
Probably something like that. He's like, oh, Nautica. Isn't that a clothing brand, Nautica? So when you open the app for the first time, you see this screen come up. And it launches you to first option is a YouTube video where they tell you what they made, why they made it. The next thing is the 9 tenets, which is basically just don't be a dick and follow the rules. Don't go out at night. Clean up.
Don't go out at night?
Yeah.
They don't want you to go out at night.
No. A lot of people do that, but you're not supposed to.
Is that maybe a liability thing?
I think that's 100% what it is.
So they call them 9 penance?
9 tenets.
Tenets.
Yeah.
10 tenets?
Tenets.
Nine tenets.
Yeah, 9 tenets.
This is hard.
No, it's not.
Why don't they just call them rules? He's going Italian on the name and calling them tenets.
Because he's pretentious.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
The last thing it does, it prompts you to post your adventures on Twitter and or Reddit.
They're like, the app's free. Nobody's buying premium. Y'all want to do the marketing for us?
Exactly.
And people are like, yes.
TikTok has answered.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It is huge on TikTok. We'll get back to that later, but it's huge on TikTok. So the basic nuts and bolts of the game works like this. It uses your maps, location, basically. It uses your location. It generates random coordinates. Randonauting, right?
Yes.
It
jams him. Down your throat, go here.
It generates these random coordinates. It also localizes them, so it's not like super far away.
Like you're not going to Alaska,
yeah,
you know, to find nothing there. It's like it wants you to jump in the middle of this mountain.
Exactly.
Like, oh,
it does localize them. That's basically the nuts and bolts of the game. I think it came about because of the COVID-19, the pandemic. Nothing was really open for teens to do, so they kind of took the only thing, walking and exercising, the only thing to do, and made a game out of it.
Because Pokemon Go is kind of down, so
Pokemon Go's, it's still actually going. Pokemon Go is lame now, lame stream media.
Got you.
But it took something mundane and made it into a challenge.
Got you.
So that's basically the nuts and bolts of the game.
Is there anything you're supposed to do when you find it? Like you go there, like what now? Like
you're supposed to like take a story of it while you're going there, and you're kind of supposed to make like your own narratives out of it. Like you start like selfieing or Instagramming like stories, and then you like it makes like a whole story of you finding this thing.
All I can think about is this is excellent marketing because they're having people do it for.
Yes.
It's genius.
It's very smart. When you start the game, you have 15 points, and it resets daily. So you can do it 15 times a day.
For free. If you're for premium, can you do more?
Yeah. But there's something called a void, and there's something called an attractor. A void is something where there's not many points around. You gather points as you go toward these areas. And the goal is to get more points so you can do more. An attractor is an area that have a lot of points, like laying around randomly. There's also something called anomalies, and anomalies are the extreme of the void and the attractor. So if there's an anomaly void, there's nothing. And if there's an anomaly attractor, there's a whole lot of points.
And so do you just walk there and then you get it?
Yeah, I guess
Is it
so.
the first person to get it? Are you competing with other people, or is it only on your map?
I think it's like Pokemon Go where anyone can get the points. But I did see that if you have a void with an anomaly, the chances are of your intention being there much higher.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes. The intention is something you think to yourself as you're filling out the paperwork and stuff. The paperwork where you press what you want to go and you hit go. You're thinking about this intention the whole time, whether you're chanting it or you're just thinking in your mind. You're thinking it, and then your intention, whether that be big or small or not very important or something super important. Like, my intention is to end COVID. That's my intention.
You'd be very disappointed. You're going to have to go more than 15 times.
Okay, my intention is to be happy. You think your intention and you hit go. And as it's generating, you still think your intention. And then finally it generates and you go to the spot and something is there that relates to your intention.
Supposedly.
That's right.
I got you. Well, I'll unleash my thoughts about this when we get to the end.
What does this have to do with your mind?
What does this have to do with your mind?
That's an interesting question that I'm glad you asked me. Listen, there's two approaches to this game, which I think are actually why it's super interesting. One is scientific, and the other is supernatural. So you were a psychology major.
Yes.
Do you give any credence to the idea of the power of positive thinking?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Can you elaborate a little bit?
In terms of this app or just in general?
In general.
I think that one of the ultimate factors in happiness is expectations. So where, somebody, let's put it in terms of podcast because that's what we're doing right now.
Sure.
And it's the biggest thing on my mind at this very moment. If somebody started a podcast and they weren't expecting anybody to listen to it and they were getting 20 downloads a week, they might be thrilled. And if somebody released a podcast and they wanted 1,000 a week and they only got 50 or 500, they might be really disappointed. So it's like the facts are one podcast got 20, the other got 500, but the person who got 20 is happier because of his expectations and the spin that he put on it. I think we're able to kind of control now. But this doesn't. Now you're leading me down a rabbit trail. There are people that are upset and sad and have mental illness and are facing depression, and it's very annoying when people tell them, oh, "Just be happy."
Absolutely,
Just be happy.
That's not even where I'm going with this, but
Right.
I understand what you're saying.
I just have to clarify that because I know that stuff, and I don't want to make it seem like that I'm saying it's a solution. But I do think that people have the power, have the willpower to mentally put a positive spin on things, and that is kind of where I think about like positive energy and the output of that.
That was very well said.
Thank you.
I
On
agree.
the spot too.
Yes, and I agree with you. It was on the spot. And it kind of relates to randonauting because of what you said. Expectations. Don't expect too much doing this game. You're not going to...
What you put in is what you're going to get out.
Exactly. If you focus on your intention, like blacked out, you can't think of anything else.
You're running people over driving. You're driving into a lake.
Cutting through people's yards.
Yeah.
Don't do that. But if you're super focused on your attention, you might reap a better result. Now, that's not exactly what you said. What I'm more talking about is the quantum physics element of it. And that is... So, listen, I'm not a scientist. We've been over this before. I'm not a scientist. You're not a scientist.
I'm not. Social scientist. Soft scientist.
Yes. I'm going to quote Philip Ball, who wrote for BBC about quantum physics. He wrote, when this... He's talking about light effects.
It's a very small quote. Win this. I'm going to get that tattooed on me.
like the scroll
in
letter.
Chinese, yeah.
When this observable effect was first noticed by the early pioneers of the quantum theory, they were deeply troubled. It seemed to undermine the basic assumptions behind all science, that there is an objective world out there, irrespective of us. If the way of the world behaves depends on how, or if we look at it, what can reality really mean? So that means, in their experiments, they were observing things that changed based on how we saw them. And it's kind of talking about how light reflected around a star. And like I said, I'm only vaguely familiar with that.
No, I'm actually familiar with that theory because
Yeah.
it's kind of talking about, it kind of lends itself to parallel theory too as well.
Yes.
But like if we looking at something can impact whether or not it exists. So I understand.
Exactly.
I don't understand what you're saying, but I know what you're talking about.
And this comes to randonauting because if we're observing the thing that we want to find our intention, would it have ever existed? And the fact that you're putting it out there to find this thing, does that make that exist? And I don't know if it does. I don't know if it's true, but I think it's an interesting theory behind the app.
It makes me think of the idea that was presented regarding Slender Man, in that it's like
Call me one trick pony?
No. When we were talking about Slender Man, it was actually my theory, but when we were talking about Slender Man as a tulpa, I said I don't think that it could consciously be something that affects you, but I think if you believe in it enough, that it could lead you to do something that you would have otherwise not done. So I think that's kind of the play here with randonauting, is even if like the app didn't make something happen, but the simple, like the butterfly effect, the simple thing that you decided to play today and it brought you somewhere that you otherwise would not have went to, could lead something to happen that you will forever attribute to randonauting, but really it's just kind of a coincidental thing that you ended up there.
Is that coincidence at that point? I don't know. And that's what's really interesting.
Or did God say, download this app, bruh?
Well, it depends on what you consider God. Like you said, you're an atheist.
I'm not an atheist.
You're an agnostic.
Yes.
Yes, I knew that. Like, it depends on what you consider to be a higher power. And it's hard. It's insanely hard to pin down.
The App Store is my God.
There you go.
Whatever it suggests, I'm like, okay, I'll trust you. It's got 5 stars. Just like believing the bizarre.
I want to move this over to the supernatural realm.
Yes, that's what I've been waiting for. Let's do it.
Like you said in Antarctica, you're going to look at me like I have 5 heads. You ready? There is another way of looking at this app that is something called magical thinking. And magical thinking in chaos magic is something that I find to be very similar to Randonautica. Like, not only is it similar, it's disturbingly similar. I think this app is 100% based off magical thinking. I think this app is 100% based off magical thinking.
Is that like an Italian D&D game?
Magical thinking?
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
No, I'm just trying to tie it to the Italian.
Oh, yeah, no.
The first rule of magical thinking is you have to order red sauce.
We're going to briefly touch on an element of chaos magic called gnosis. Gnosis.
Is that Italian for gnocchi? I'm not even hungry.
Or something called the gnosis state. Yeah.
Just a gnosis state of mind.
So basically, the gnosis state it's a thought that the person is going to do gnosis, that they are going to focus on something so intently.
The gnosis focus. The gnosis focus.
The gnosis focus. So you think about something super hard, like insanely hard, and you concentrate on that thought, and it's kind of like the labeling your intention in randonauting. That's kind of what that is. And the person doing the gnosis state is they're pouring all their intentions into that thought. The idea of gnosis and chaos magic is that it is a filter to drown out the rest of the world. You're only focusing on the one thing. You're one being at that moment. You're getting rid of the world. You're that one thing.
So what is the goal? Like, I understand it sounds like a very intensive form of meditation, but what is supposed to be the outcome of focusing on that one thing?
For chaos magic?
For the gnocchi focus.
For the gnosis state. That is one step in performing a ritual in chaos magic to get something that you want. It's the idea of focusing so hard that that thing becomes reality. So if you want a part and you're in theater, you're focusing so hard, and that lets you do a ritual, and that ritual leads to the success.
And then they lose to the person that was spending their time rehearsing lines.
Don't get me wrong, the person doing the magic, they're still rehearsing lines. They're actually rehearsing harder. They're focusing so hard that they don't do anything else. It's a little dangerous. Because of how
method acting.
Because of how much you commit to it. Yeah, it kind of is. It's ridiculous. Gnosis is just one part of that. And I think it's the same kind of thinking, is that it's that kind of focus that the app is trying to capitalize on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think... Yeah, I can see the parallels you're making.
Okay. Those elements, either the scientific or the supernatural, maybe one of those is the reason why randonauting has become so popular, because so many weird things have happened. I have found multiple compilations of people on TikTok that are doing randonauting and gotten some crazy results. The big one. The big one we all know. You know about it, right?
Seattle, right?
Yes, Seattle. So there's these teenagers, they're randonauting, they're doing the stories, they're documenting their adventure, and at the beach...
Guys, we found a suitcase at the beach.
They find a luggage case. And for some reason, they mess with it. Right? They're poking it.
Wait, open it. It stinks, y'all.
And then they unzip it, and they find that it smells bad. They don't open it anymore because inside is a plastic bag, like a garbage bag.
Okay, so she's calling the police so we can see if it's actually a dead body or it's just food.
They call the cops.
When cops got there, they confirmed the presence of human remains.
It's a murder scene.
Yeah, so was this exactly where they were led, or is it in the vicinity?
It's exactly.
They were directed there by a smartphone app called Randonautica.
Man, well, if you think about all the people playing it, all it takes is one.
It's still kind of crazy, though.
Oh, I mean, it's absolutely insane. It's nuts.
You know what? I don't know the intention they were using.
I was going to ask if they were doing the anomaly or what they
I'm
were.
Sure they used...
You're not sure. You son bitch.
I'm sure they used something that relates to death.
They picked the dead body one. They were like, all right, you asked.
They got what they asked for.
But they didn't even open it.
They opened it a little bit.
Yeah.
They didn't see a body. Do you want these teenagers to be scarred?
I think they probably already are, right?
Yeah, probably, but to a worse extent.
Here's the real question.
Yeah.
Did they get the points?
Probably.
All right. That's the least that the app could do.
That's all that matters. There's also another case I wanted to touch on really quick. It was super cool. It was this guy and this girl. They were going out with the intention of red and yellow. And they drove around
McDonald's, right?
No, they drove around and they found this abandoned building, and in front of it was one of those kids' play sets that is red and yellow. They also found a balloon that was red and yellow, and they found a gate that had a red sign and yellow bars. I'm not saying that those things don't exist already, but the idea that they were focusing and looking for those types of things drew their attention to them, and it was interesting.
I think the mind has a immaculate way of putting things there that, like, we are always trying to draw connections. We're trying to make narratives. We're trying to tie things together. That seems a little bit like what's at play.
I agree. And those are very common colors. I think we should break this down a little bit and talk about it. So, randonauting and the idea that your mind can influence the environment around you, I think is an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting concept. It's something that kind of took the world by storm for a while. It gave us something to do during the pandemic.
Man, that's exactly how it started. There was nothing to do. There's nothing. There's no movies. Everything's closed. You want to hang out with your friends? What can you do? You need to go walking? At least this gave you a goal.
Yeah, it was a more inclusive Pokemon Go, because Pokemon Go, I think it probably generated new fans, but for the most part, I think it kind of stood in that fandom. So this was like a bring all your friends, very generalized game that everybody could play, give them something to do, because people like going on hunts. And then once that Seattle thing happened, do you know when that happened, by the way?
It was in June.
Right, so that plays into, I mean, what is like the most popular anything in the world right now? True crime.
Absolutely.
So you have this app and this activity that is giving life to an otherwise lifeless time of our, existence. And then all of a sudden it gets, even though it's a tragic thing, it gets this true crime like twist. So now you have people going out doing it, hoping, which is kind of a sick thing. But I mean, I think humans are sick. But it's now it's like, what am I gonna find? Like, these people, all it takes is one case, one time that found something incredibly unusual, and now people are trying to find their own things unusual.
Yeah, these kids got super famous off of finding a body. That's crazy.
So it's kind of like a lightning in a bottle. That's kind of, I think the world is crazy. I think there's a lot of crazy stuff out there. And I think humans naturally have tendencies to want to tie things together, make a narrative. And like, you can use this as an opportunity to tie things in that might not be there, but you can convince yourself that they are, because you're trying to make an adventure out of it. And I think that's majorly what's at play.
I agree, but also I think that because of that type of magical thinking, you're looking for that type of thing you wouldn't be looking for anyway. Maybe it was there along, but the fact that you're looking for it and giving it attention is, for me, what sells it as something more than just a game. I
think it gives you the opportunity to do something you otherwise would not have done. I actually, because we actually went once, like very lightly, which we saw a bag on the side of the road and we didn't stop because it was a busy highway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our personal experience with it. But I read a story that somebody had where they did it and they went somewhere and they were thinking like the color white, and then they saw a white truck, and it made them think of a friend that they had that had a very similar truck, and then they reached out to that friend and had a good conversation. So nothing creepy happened, nothing unusual happened, but what their randonauting experience led them to do was reach out to an old friend and reconnect that they probably otherwise would not have done.
Absolutely. I think that's 100% right.
But I think that's us. Like, the game didn't do that. I think randonauting is excellent marketing and taking the perfect opportunity at the perfect time in our world, and we're doing the rest. Like,
they
I
call
feel
their shot.
100%. The game did 10% of the work, and we're doing the 90%.
Yes, they coded it.
So I think it's more of a human thing. I think it's human nature with what we're doing to it. We like stories, we like adventure, and we like things that are connected and become full circle. And we will fight tooth and nail to make that be the case.
So where do you fall on the idea that randonauting somehow manipulates your environment?
Manipulates your environment. I believe that you would go somewhere that you otherwise would not. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it put something there.
No, it didn't. You're right.
I think but it's a choice. It's your choice. It's your choice to do the game. It's your choice to go where it tells you to go. And like let me put it this way. Randonauting, the app, does not distribute meaning. You create the meaning when it tells you to focus on what you want, and it'll lead you there, and then it says, make meaning of it. So I really think it's all on us. So I actually say unbelievable.
I think you're 100% right. I think we believe it for different reasons, but I also find it 100% believable.
Believable?
Believable.
Oh, I said unbelievable.
Oh, what?
I said it's 100% unbelievable.
Oh, that's awkward.
I know, you're like, we're on the same page, and it's like, no, we're not.
No, I find it believable.
I just think of it as an opportunity. Like, you have a good job, but there's little things you don't like about it. Somebody says, I have a new job opening, and you're like, I shouldn't, but I will. You jump on it on the spur of the moment, and you happen to connect with this coworker, and you fall in love, and it becomes your husband or wife. Like, all of a sudden, is that job the conduit that made you find your significant other, or did you just personally make a choice to jump on an opportunity, or in this case, do an app and take an adventure and then find something and make meaning of it?
That depends. In your scenario, there's no intention of finding another significant other, but if you're thinking, I need a wife, and that happens, then maybe it's you thinking about it.
Maybe. I mean, I think we do have the ability to put energy out there. I'm giving humans the credit here. I think the app is doing very, very little.
I agree with you. I agree. I think it's the intention is what really does it.
Yes, unbelievable.
Believable. That was a super fun episode. Thank you again, Haley and the others who said... What?
Listen, I'm going to be as transparent as we can. We remembered that it was Haley, and I will find this, hopefully before the episode drops. Somebody else, at least one other person reached out. We have so many freaking messages on Instagram because we reach out so much, but I want to find the other person and give them a proper shout out.
Yes, thank you so much for your suggestions. Honestly, I would not have done this episode, but I think it was super fun to do. Send us more.
Yeah, and you know what? Even though I go unbelievable, I'm still down for a good time. So I would like to actually randonaut, and I think we should do it together sometime, maybe document it.
Okay.
Just for fun, right?
All right, yeah, sure,
Just
I'll
for
do
fun. Because I still like this. Even if I don't necessarily believe it, I still think it's fun. So stay tuned. We might have a video up or something about documenting a randonauting experience. If you guys are interested in that, let us know. It might be fun.
Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the content, please give us a 5-star rating if you can. If you're not, if you're on Spotify or whatever, just I don't like it or whatever.
If you're on Apple, 5-star review. If you're on Spotify, share with a friend.
Yes. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you for all the interactions. Seriously, when we reach out, you all are so kind and supportive, and it really does mean the world to us, and it still astounds us every single day.
Yeah, before we record today, we're like, holy God, what? Holy God.
Holy God.
What am I, a Mormon?
Are you?
No. Anyway, we were shocked before the episode today.
Yes. So thank you all for listening, and until then, join us on our next episode of Believe in the Bizarre.